Hi guys, I'm Myra with Atomic Baby Cosplay, and today I'm going to be talking about my best tips for how to gather fabric. So for this, it's going to be an actual sewing demonstration where I show you how I gather fabric. So let's get started.
Alright guys, so I'm going to be showing you two different ways to gather. I wanted to show you first that most patterns are going to have you gather between different notches or circles. So I've marked two places on my fabric so I can gather between them just like you would in a pattern. But keep in mind that you can also apply any of these techniques to non-patterns just for how to gather. So there's a couple of different ways to gather, but I'm going to show you the way that I like to do it if I need to control the gathers and the way that I like to do it if I'm just making kind of ruffles. So if I want to control the gathers, the first thing that you want to do is you want to set your machine tension to be relatively loose. So I'm setting mine on a 1. And then you also want to set your stitch length to be very long. So I'm setting mine at the longest that it will go. All right, so now that I've set my stitch tension at the loosest and my stitch length at the longest, I'm just going to sew from point A to point B. I like to do this with a smaller seam allowance, just because I like to guarantee that my gathering stitches will be hidden. So once I get to the end, I'm going to leave my needle in my fabric, and I'm going to pivot at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to do 1 stitch. There we go. And then I'm going to pivot again. And now I'm making another line of stitching parallel to my first line of stitching. Now, some people will do this by breaking their stitching, so they'll stitch all the way to the end, and then they'll take the whole piece out of their machine, and then they'll start a new line of stitching parallel. But I like the 1 stitch method because I feel like it gives me more control and more security that my gathering stitches aren't going to pop out. And once I've gotten to the other end, I'm just going to take my needle out of my fabric and pull it out. Now here's the important part. I know that this is the top part that I was sewing on because the bobbin thread is the thread that I'm going to pull in order to gather my fabric. I've got a little bit of a snarl, hang on. So I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to find my bobbin thread, and that's what I'm going to pull to gather my fabric. And I'm just going to kind of push it down until it's gathered to the amount that it wants. Usually the patterns will say gather down from 30 inches to 26 inches. And so you'll just kind of gather and then you'll measure until it's about the amount that you want. And you want to try to space them out so they're a little bit more even and not quite so like giant clumps. The other method to gather fabric, this one is not so great for gathering for a specific amount, but is really awesome if you want to gather just something really quickly and very, it doesn't have to be perfect like with a ruffle. So what you're going to do for this one is you're going to keep your stitch length super, super long, but you're going to increase the tension on your machine, which you can see just up there. I have a little dial. So I increased it from 1, which is where it was, and normally I keep it around a 4. I increased it from 1 all the way up to 10. And now I'm just going to sew with long stitches at a high tension. And as you can see, it gathers the fabric for me. Now, the important thing to note with this is that this is not going to be great for permanence. You're going to want to stitch over this to try to make sure that it stays this way. But this is really great when you're doing ruffles, and then you can do a permanent line of stitching after you pin them into whatever thing you're pinning them into.
Alright guys, I hope that was helpful for some of you. Definitely give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Drop me a comment down below with your best tips for gathering fabric. And lastly, if you want to come and join my free sewing community over on Facebook, I'll put a link in the description box down below. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!